Welcome to Agri-Economics and Extension by Anukriti. So if you're new to this channel, this is a channel where I'll be posting lecture videos on agriculture economics, and I'll also try to cover agriculture extension portion. So let's begin. The topic for today is elasticity of demand. It also includes what are the types of elasticity, what is the method of measuring these elasticity. Then I'll also be talking about what is supply and what is law of supply, then elasticity of supply, then price determination and market disequilibrium, which includes market shortage and market surplus. So without further ado, let's begin. So our first topic is elasticity of demand. So as we know, Alfred Marshall was a famous economist and he gave the concept of elasticity of demand. So always remember who gave the concept of elasticity of demand. It was Alfred Marshall. And he defined elasticity as the relative change in the quantity demanded to the relative change in the price. So it means that it tells about how much there is change in quantity if we change the price. So this is basically elasticity of demand. So there are three types of elasticity of demand, and these depends on the factor we are taking into consideration. The first one is price elasticity of demand, the second one is income elasticity of demand, and the third one is cross elasticity of demand. So let's try to look at them one by one. The first one is price elasticity of demand. So it is change of quantity demanded of a commodity when the price of that commodity changes with other factors being constant. So in price elasticity of demand, we see the change in quantity demanded with respect to the change in price of the commodity. Okay, so do remember this, and the formula for this is percentage change in the quantity demanded by the percentage change in the price. The second one is income elasticity of demand, and income elasticity of demand is defined as it is a measure of responsiveness of demand due to change in income of the consumer in terms of percentage. So it does not include other factors, it just takes into consideration of the income of the consumer. So do remember income elasticity, consider income of the consumer. So here all the factors are kept constant, and the formula for this is percentage change in the quantity demanded by percentage change in the income. So all the formulas of elasticity is basically same, just we are changing the denominator. Like in price, we have percentage change in price. In income, we have percentage change in income. So this was price elasticity and then income elasticity. Now the third one is cross elasticity of demand. So cross elasticity of demand is influenced by the price of related goods, and do remember that related goods could be substitute or complements, as we have talked in our former videos that what is substitute and what is your complement. For example, substitute you can take tea and coffee, and for complement you can take bread and butter. Okay, so in cross elasticity we do not take the price of the product, we take the price of the related product and then see what is the change in the demand. So suppose if the related product, suppose the price of tea increases, then what will happen to the demand of coffee? Obviously the demand of coffee will increase. So this is what basically cross elasticity of demand is. So it is a ratio of percentage change in the quantity demanded of the commodity X by the percentage change in the price of related commodity. So we define it with the help of formula, that is cross elasticity is percentage change in the quantity demanded of commodity X and percentage change in the price of commodity Y. Okay, so this is cross elasticity of demand. Now the next topic is degrees of elasticity of demand. So we have discussed what is elasticity. Now the goods or commodities have certain degrees of elasticity. Some are perfectly elastic, some are perfectly inelastic, some are relatively elastic, some are unitarily elastic. So let's look at them. So based on the magnitude of elasticity of demand, they are categorized into 5 degrees. It's perfectly elastic. Okay, then it's perfectly inelastic, then we have relatively elastic demand, then we have relatively inelastic demand, and the last one is unitary elastic demand. So let's try to understand them one by one. The first one is perfectly elastic demand. So what happens here is when there is a slight change in price, what we see is that there is an infinite change in the quantity demanded. So this is elastic, like a rubber band. Okay, So it has elasticity. So here when we talk about elastic, we are talking about demand, quantity. Okay. So do remember, whenever we'll consider all of these, we'll take into consideration of the quantity. Okay. So a price, there's a slight change in price and you'll see infinite change in quantity. So it's elastic. And the demand is hypersensitive. Okay. So what happens here is that the elasticity of demand is infinite, and the demand curve, when we draw it, then it comes horizontal. So let's look at this graphically. On x-axis we have quantity and on y-axis we have price. So the demand curve is horizontal to x-axis. So why it's horizontal? Because at same price, slight change, you'll find that the quantity is changing at greater level. So it is perfect. So that's why the graph is horizontal line parallel to x-axis. Now second one is perfectly inelastic. It is exactly opposite perfectly elastic. So here what happens is the price of commodity may increase or decrease, but the quantity remains same. So what is happening here is price is changing, but there is no change, or we can say very minute change in the quantity demanded. So here demand is insensitive. Okay, so therefore it's inelastic. Now EP is equal to 0 and the demand curve is vertical to x-axis. So we can see this graphically. On x-axis we have quantity, y-axis we have price, and this is our demand curve, which is parallel to y-axis. Now the third one is relatively inelastic demand. So here we are talking about relatively inelastic. So inelastic, as we know, we are taking with in consideration the quantity. So what happens here is proportionate fall in price followed by a smaller. So what is happening here is the change in price is greater with respect to change in quantity. Okay, and vice versa. When there is an increase in price, greater increase in price, we see lesser increase in quantity. So this is what relatively inelastic demand is. And the range for this is, it is less than 1 but greater than 0. And the elasticity is less than 1 and it is greater than 0. Do remember the range of this. And graphically it is a demand curve. As we know, demand curve is downward sloping, and since price and quantity have inverse relation, as we talked about this in law of demand. So the curve is downward sloping, but it is steeper. Okay. Now the fourth one is relatively elastic demand, and here it means that a lesser proportionate change in price is followed by larger proportionate change in quantity demanded. So here there is little change in price but greater change in quantity demanded. So it's relatively elastic, and its range is, it is greater than 1 but less than infinity. Okay. So graphically it's the demand curve decreasing, but it's somewhat less steeper than relatively inelastic demand. So and our agriculture product is inelastic. So do remember this, that agriculture commodities are inelastic. Since there is change in price, but we do not see any change in quantity. Now the last one is unitary elastic demand. A proportionate change in price results in same proportionate change in quantity demanded of commodity. The demand is said to be unitary elastic, that is EP is equal to 1. So as we have discussed all the 5 types of elasticity, the first 2 are theoretical only. They do not exist in real market terms. While relatively inelastic, you have agricultural commodities. Then relatively elastic, we have common purpose goods. Okay. Our next topic is method of measuring price elasticity. So there are 3 methods. First, it's total outlay or expenditure method. The second one is arc elasticity of demand, and the third one is point elasticity of demand. So let's look at them one by one. The first one is total outlay or expenditure method. So as the name suggests, expenditure method. So here we are taking into consideration the total expenditure of a consumer on a product. So we use expenditure as a tool to find out whether the product is elastic or the demand for that product is elastic or inelastic. So as we know that elastic products are those whose demand changes with price. The quantity consumed changes with price. And inelastic are those products whose, for example, agricultural goods are inelastic. So what happens here is the quantity demanded do not change with respect to price. Okay. So to find out whether the demand is elastic or not, we are taking total expenditure. So the demand is said to be elastic when the total expenditure increases with fall in price and decreases with a rise in price. Suppose price of certain good decreases and the demand is elastic. So what will happen is price decreased. So you will buy more of that, more quantity of that good. So you are spending more money on that good. So therefore what is happening here is there is increase in expenditure with fall in price and then vice versa. Okay. I hope so that you got the concept. Now the second one is inelastic demand, which is observed that total amount spent of commodity increases with increase in price. So here what is happening is the quantity demanded remains the same. Okay. So how is our total expenditure increasing? Since now suppose the price of this commodity increases. So price is increasing and the quantity demanded remains the same. So what will happen is price is increasing. So therefore your expenditure, that the money you are spending to buy the same quantity, will increase. So therefore expenditure is increasing with increase in price. Similarly, there will be decrease in price, then there will be decrease in expenditure. Now the last one is unitary elasticity. So here the expenditure remains unaltered with change in price. Okay. So the second one is arc elasticity of demand. So here it is used to measure here elasticity is measured by taking 2 points and we find the elasticity. So it takes old data and new data, and in case of prices like the new price, old price, new quantity, old quantity, and then there is a formula to find out what is the price elasticity. So the formula is this. Do remember the formula. Here we are taking Q2, that is the new data, minus Q1 by Q1 plus Q2 by 2. Similarly, P2 minus P1 by P1 plus P2 by 2. So when we cut all of these, we will find a simple formula. So you can remember this. Now, the third method is point elasticity of demand. So it is a geometrical method for measuring elasticity at a point on demand curve. So it is used when price and quantity change is extremely small. So the change we find in this is small. So when there is a small change, we take point elasticity of demand, that is graphical method. The elasticity at any point of the demand curve is the ratio of lower part to the upper part. So remember, lower part to the upper part is the elasticity. When we take the ratio of lower by upper, we get elasticity. The point elasticity of demand on straight line is different at every point. So the point elasticity at every point on the curve will be different. So we can look at this. What does this means graphically? So this is your price and quantity. Now when we look at the upper portion, so here EP is infinite. Why? Because the lower part is having more, and on upper, if we take the quantity of upper part, it's 0. So then therefore it comes out EP is equal to infinite. Similarly, here EP is equal to 0, and at the midpoint it will be EP is equal to 1. So as we know, the range between infinite and 1 comes relatively inelastic, and between 1 and 0 comes relatively elastic. So this was graphical method, and do remember it is used when a change is small. So this was all about the methods of measuring price elasticity. Now we'll start a complete new topic, that is supply. So what is supply? Supply is a schedule of the amount of goods that would be offered for sale at possible price at any one instance of time in which the condition of supply remains the same. So in short, we can say supply is a total amount of good that a producer is ready to give to a consumer. That is basically supply in general terms. So then there is another term, that is stock. So what is stock and what is supply? So stock is the amount of output that exists in a market, while supply is the actual quantity that a seller is willing to sell at a particular price. Supply is drawn from stock of the commodity. Okay, so stock is the total amount of the commodity produced, and supply is the total amount of commodity that a seller is willing to sell in the market. So supply is a whole box, and stock is a whole box or bunch of commodity you produced, and supply is that commodity that is available in the market for the consumers. So this is the basic difference. Now, like law of demand, there is law of supply, and law of supply states that it indicates a functional relationship between the quantity supplied of a commodity and its unit price, and there is a positive relationship, that is, as the price of commodity increases, its supply extends, and as the prices fall, its supply contracts, and we are taking all the factors constant. So suppose price of a commodity has increased. So what will happen? The producer will produce more of that commodity because he will generate more profit from it. So therefore, law of supply shows a positive relationship between the price and the quantity of the commodity. So graphically, it is a straight line, increasing straight line, and price and quantity. So this is when the price is P1, then the quantity is Q1. When the price increases to P2, the quantity increases to Q2. So this is simply law of supply. Now, as we studied in demand portion, extension and contraction of demand, similarly we have extension and contraction of supply. So extension of supply means offering more quantity for sale at higher price, while contraction means offering less quantity at lower price. So here, when the price is increasing, we are offering more quantity. When the price is decreasing, we are offering less quantity. So extension and contraction of supply refers to movement of product on the same supply curve. So we should always remember, whenever we talk about extension and contraction of whether demand or supply, here the movement is along the curve. Okay. So graphically we can see this. Price on y-axis, quantity on x-axis. Now this is a supply curve. Now suppose the original price was P and the quantity was Q. Now the price decreased to now the price increased to P2. So the quantity increased to Q2. So what is happening here is extension of supply, which we are moving upwards. So do remember here, remember the movement that we are moving up in the supply curve. So it's extension of supply. Now in second case, the price is decreasing to P1 and the quantity decreasing to Q2. So it's contraction of supply and we are moving downwards. So remember the movement because they ask question on this. Now the second one is shift in supply curve. So shift, as we know, shift is shifting of the curve to rightwards or leftwards. So change in supply curve, increase and decrease in supply curve. When we talk about shift, we talk about increase and decrease in supply. So an increase in supply results in shift of supply curve towards right of the initial supply curve. So when we talk about increase, it's a rightwards, and we talk about when there is a decrease, it's left side. Okay, so graphically we can see that the price is same, but when there is increase in supply, then it will shift to right side, and when there is decrease in supply, it will shift to left side. So this is increase and decrease in supply. So increase in supply, we are offering more quantity and shifting to right, and in decrease in supply, we are offering less quantity, so it's shifting to left side. So I hope graphically it was clear, both extension and contraction and then shift in supply curve. So it's quite similar as we studied in demand. So nothing is different, it's almost same, just the curve is upward. Okay, so shift factors. What are the factors causing shift? So as we know that shift is caused by all the other factors except price. So shift factors are the factors responsible for shift in your supply. The first one is change in technology. Now suppose there's a technological innovation, new varieties of crop has been introduced in the market. So what will happen is the quantity produced will increase, the crop yield will increase. So there will be a increase in supply in the market. Now another factor could be reduction in resource price. Suppose the inputs, the price at which inputs are purchased decreases. So what will happen? The producer will buy more of the inputs, so he'll produce more of the commodity. So there will be increase in supply. Then a reduction in relative price, reduction in relative prices of other products, other related products. So what will happen is, suppose price of certain product decreases, related product decreases. So what will happen is producer will produce more of that commodity whose price is higher in the market. So it is reduction in relative prices of other related products. Then market infrastructure. Now good communication is there, good transport network is there, supply is good. So what will happen? Supply will increase. Now another factor is increase in number of producers. So if the number of producers are increasing, obviously there will be an increase in supply. Then the last one is producers' expectation about future prices. So the best example for this is prices of sanitizer. So during COVID time, what happened is that there was a prediction and expectation by the producers that the prices of sanitizers will increase. So what happened is there was increase in supply of sanitizers during COVID time. So this was all about shift factors. Now elasticity of supply. It is similar to your elasticity of demand as we discussed in the former parts of the video. So elasticity of supply of commodity is responsiveness or sensitiveness of supply to change in prices. It is the formula is percentage change in the quantity of goods supplied by percentage change in price of goods supplied. Okay. So there are 5 degrees of elasticity of supply. It's similar and everything is almost similar. It's perfectly elastic. Elasticity of supply is infinite, and then for inelastic it's 0. For relatively elastic it's greater than 1. For relatively inelastic it's less than 1. And for unitary elastic supply it's equal to 0. So you can note down what is in this table, and it's everything is same as you have studied in elasticity of supply, only graph will be different. Now the last topic is price determination. We talked about demand, we talked about supply. We know the supply curve, we know the demand curve, we know what is the quantity demanded, we know what is the quantity supplied. So how we can find out the price of the commodity in the market. So where there is intersection of demand curve and supply curve, it indicates the equality of the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied. So it is called equilibrium quantity, OQ, and that and the price at that quantity is called equilibrium price. So we find out price by this method. Okay, and then we talked about equilibrium price. But do equilibrium exist always? No, it doesn't. So we will discuss market disequilibrium. When the equilibrium gets disturbed, it leads to market disequilibrium. This situation occurs when there is a surplus or shortage of commodity. So we know what is the equilibrium quantity, but sometimes what happens is there is excess of goods in supply in the market, or sometimes there is a shortage, right? So this causes market disequilibrium. So the first case is of surplus. So surplus, obviously, as the name suggests, surplus means there is a surplus of quantity in the market. So what happens is when there is excess quantity or excess supply, so what will happen is the seller will try to sell the surplus, and this will cause a reduce in price. Now suppose a consumer wants 10 pens, but I have 50 pens. So how will I make the consumer buy it? I'll reduce the price of those 50 pence so that he can purchase all of the 50 pence I have. So similarly, when this happens, what it causes is it reduces the price. And then again, an equilibrium is established. So this is surplus, and graphically we can see that this portion represents your surplus. The quantity supplied is Q3 and the quantity demanded is Q1. So what the seller tries to do is he reduces the price to P2. So now the quantity will increase, the consumer will buy more. So here again it shifts back to equilibrium position. Now shortage is obviously there is the demand of commodity is more and the supply is less, so it causes shortage in the market. So when there's a shortage in the market, what happens is the price of that product increases. So graphically we can see that this represents shortage, this portion, and so this is the end of the video. I have discussed elasticity of demand, then methods of calculating elasticity, then supply, and then elasticity of supply, then price determination, and then market disequilibrium. So by this we have covered the general topic, that is law of demand and law of supply, elasticity, etc. In next video we'll talk about the types of cost in production. So I hope the video was useful for you, and I hope that your concepts got clear. Thank you for watching the video till the end. I hope the video was useful, and if you find it useful, do like, comment, share, and also subscribe to the channel, and also press the notification bell so that you don't miss any update. See you in the next video.